So now that April Fool is over, I can actually make a proper video on this meta, I guess. So today we'll be walking into Darkness Over Vellsar meta in this throwback rotation. I've never experienced this one before. I wasn't playing when it was originally in the game, so I guess now's the time. And of course, as usual, we're going to be starting with a sword deck because that's what we always do. So today we're going to be playing some Aggro Sword and seeing how it fares in the meta. So this is the deck list we're running for today. It's a bit different from the tournament winning list, so I guess I should talk a bit about it here. You can see we are running some interesting cards here like Gizmo Courier, which is this 2-cost 2/2 against +2 and Rush if you have 3 other allied officers. This is mostly a high roll effect, you rarely actually get to use it because this deck doesn't have much card draw. But it's here for the Machina trait as well. And then we have Gabriel, who just pretty interesting card in aggro since you can use it to buff. Then we have a Sword Swinging Bandit here, 3-cost 2/1 with Storm, and then last but someone has a Bullet Bike, so he provides a decent amount of damage. We're running Bandit Raid here for card draw. You can run more copies of it actually. And yeah, the reason why we are running things like Gizmo Courier for the Machina trait is because we are running Garvan as well. You can use him as a finisher. Fanfare to deal deal damage to an enemy leader equal to his attack, and he gains attack based on double the number of traits you've played. So but base form you have Officer and Commander from Sword. From Gizmo you can get Machina, from Panther Sky you can get Natura, and from Gino and Albert you can get Levin. So these are your sorts of traits. You can go up to 10 plus 10 attack, which is a 12 damage burst, which is pretty strong. So yeah, the logic of this deck is quite simple. You just aggro them down and you finish them with like Albert and Garvan mainly. And yeah, that's it. This deck is a bit expensive as I'm running it. You can cut some legendaries. Oluon and Gabriel you can cut for more copies of stuff like Sword Swinging Bandit or Bandit Raid or Gino. So if you want to make it cheaper for yourself, you can go ahead and do that. I think Albert, Bunny and Baron and Garvan are pretty fixed though. So yeah, let's look at some games. So for our first match here, we have a game against Portal and we are going second. This is generally not what you want to see. Going second is obviously bad for us. It's an aggro deck. And Portal is an especially bad matchup for us because other than being a strong deck in general, they also have a Keenage artifact to heal, which we don't like because we are an aggro deck and we're trying to kill them fast before they can heal out of range. So for the mulligan, we just usually look for early game. 1 and 2 costs are important. Especially Gunslinger, Radical Gunslinger is especially important for this deck. If you can find Radical Gunslinger, it's very good. And then Quixotic Adventurer is also great. Other than that, you just look for early game though. My opponent has the Intro Artisan here. We're just gonna drop Olo on here just to try and we're just putting things on board to tempo in so that we can have cat and arrows rarely count up. As well as just by putting things on board, we can force our opponent to deal with it, or if our followers leave, we can hit them in the face with it instead. We go ahead and use the Archangel of Remembrance here. You don't generally like to use this. Honestly, it's mostly here for the last words matchup to banish their stuff, but since we don't have anything better to do this turn, we go ahead and use it. We can use Garvan to clear their followers. There is an argument for hitting face here, I think, but I feel like leaving my followers on board here is probably more annoying for them. And my opponent will spend the Bahamut. Looks bad since they cleared my board, but they spend their whole turn doing that, which is very good for us. So this time we're gonna go ahead and use the Quixotic Adventurer, buff the Panther Scout, and then we can go ahead and evolve Cat Admiral. This puts out a ward on my board as well as 2 priority targets my opponent has to answer. So hopefully my opponent should have trouble with that. Their Paradigm Shift shouldn't be discounted enough to clear this board efficiently, I hope at least. Opponent will go ahead and drop the Wrangler and then they can get rid of my wards so they can trade and clear my followers, which is I guess good for them, but I believe this leaves us enough damage with Show of Conviction for lethal. So yeah, this is just how the deck works, I guess. You just punch them in the face, and then when you turn 5 or later you can start using bigger burst cards like Albert and Show of Conviction. So that's it for this. Oh, they're not dead yet, okay. Well, I have Albert, so they're probably dead next turn is the goal. If they can even answer this board. Even Bahamut doesn't clear this because of the big 5 Alpha Heavy Knight here. This is the Artifact Scan. And they will use the Quicksilver, I guess just to discount their paradigm shift so they can try to heal. And that's the paradigm shift. I definitely think they mistraded though. They could have gotten rid of 6 damage instead of 5. I mean, either way they're still dead, so I don't think it matters that much, but you know. They did heal out a bunch here, which is very annoying for us. And punch them in the face with the Quick Blader. And then with Albert plus the bike, this is going to be exact lethal. So that's it for this game. Let's move on to the next game. The next game here is against Shadow, and we are going second. Shadow is another meta deck right now, of course. We prefer this one over Artifact though, because Shadow is easier to handle. They don't have as much healing, although if your opponent knows what they're doing, then you might have trouble. But for the most part, people who don't really know what they're doing, they will play a very slow game, early game, when they're playing Last Word Shadow, which will give you the opportunity to rush them down before they can even play the game, which really is the goal for this aggro deck. And they will drop Celeste Omega here, which is fine because she doesn't really do anything right now. And normally you do like to save Cat Admiral for the Evo effect, but here we need the tempo, so we just go ahead and slam Cat Admiral. Also gives my opponent a threat that they have to try to answer. I can go ahead and accelerate Bunny here just to pick up Desperado Shot while we have the play points for it. And then just drop the Gizmo Courier just for more tempo once again. My opponent will waste that Macro Impulse here to clear our follower, which is very good for us, because we don't like being hit by Necro Impulse generally. We'll use Desperado Shot to clear the Celeste here, and just Evil Face. We hold on to the Archangel of Remembrance to activate Vial next turn, and also in case we need to banish something from my opponent's board. Opponent will summon out their Otherworldly Gatekeeper here and evolve it to summon out another Last Words from their deck. And they will trade it off to heal, and then Wicked Rebirth will allow them to finish off my what's this called? Gizmo Courier. It's somewhat unfortunate. And they will heal with Boom Even as well, which is also quite annoying. And out comes Vial this turn. Honestly, with this hand, we don't really have that much we can do. So what we do here is just play Vial and just evolve Vial, punch them in the face with it. And then just hope that's consecutive Alberts into Garvin, sorry, not Gawain. Garvin won't be able to finish the game off for us. Opponent drops the Sark Wraith. Honestly, pretty slow from them, so we're not complaining. Right now, we're just trying to survive until turn 8, honestly. See, Garvin is going to do quite a bit of damage, so making it to turn 8 should allow us to get somewhere. And then this time, we'll just go ahead and slam Albert. If we had a 1-cost follower or something, we could have buffed the Albert as well, but unfortunately, we just slam Albert, hit them in the face, and then just try to win the game at some point eventually. My opponent will play the Monster Trio here, and they evolve to maximize the size of their ward, I guess to protect themselves from being killed by something. But unfortunately, because they did evolve the Trinity monster, we can just use Geno to clear it. And my opponent's emoting here because I took quite long to think about whether to just slam Ololan and pray that he hits face. I decided that this method has a higher win rate though, so I went with this. And then Panther Scout here will get a Nature Art in my pool to maximize Garvin's damage if they manage to heal out a bunch this turn. You can see my opponent is using Retracing the Past to heal, and they drop Celeste Omega as well. And this time I can finish them with Garvin, but not before I emote back at them. My rule is that when people emote at me, I will emote back at them, so we're just having a bit of an emote conversation here before I send them to the Shadow Realm with Garvin. And that's it for this game, so let's move on to the next game. So for our last game here, we have a game against Forest, and we are going first. Normally I pick games where I'm like on a bit of a back foot so that I can show off what the deck can actually do, but since this is an aggro deck, I feel it's important to have a game where I just to show what happens when you just completely high roll your opponent into the next century. So we have a going first game here. We just drop Reveilian Bandit here for tempo, and then we go ahead and drop the Gizmo Courier for tempo as well and punch my opponent in the face. My opponent drops a Tree of Wonders here, so I guess they managed to generate a berry to infuse with it, which is fine for me. We can go ahead and use Balion's command here to buff my followers, and then Rebellion Bending gets another buff off of its own effect. And we are already pushing my opponent for a lot of damage here before they can even respond. And then I guess they use Shamu Shama to draw into their deck for a answer, and they couldn't find one, so they just go ahead and pass here. We use Gabriel to buff the Prevalent Bandit, which will once again activate the Prevalent Bandit's own effect as well to make a very big follower for my opponent to probably be unable to deal with. My opponent drops Fairy Slugger here. They didn't have what we call Aria here, but even playing Aria here, they would still be dead, so it doesn't really matter that they didn't have it. There's Wind Fairy to, I don't know why they bounced the tree here. I guess they didn't expect me to have enough damage to finish them off, but I do. So I guess they just use their Fairy Whisk to heal as well. And then we can go ahead and punch them in the face with our 2 followers and then play Albert. So this is what a aggro hero looks like, I guess. So yeah, that's it for this game. Yeah. So that's all the games I have for you today. Hopefully gave you some idea of how the deck works. I should warn you though that this deck really isn't that strong. I did climb a decent amount of it, but most of the winning for this deck comes from catching your opponent off guard rather than like actually being a solid strong deck. I mean, it's not bad, of course. Like if you just want to climb, you can probably do it with this deck, but there are probably cheaper and better decks out there for climbing. So yeah, I'll make videos on those at some point, but for now I just wanted to play some Sword. And it's pretty fun, it's very easy to play, it's one of the benefits of this deck. You can just turn your brain off and just aggro your opponent into next century. And if you lose, you lose, if you win, you win. And it wins and lose fast, which is, I guess, one of the appeals of playing aggro decks in general. Yeah, that's it for today's video, see you next time, bye bye.